Bessier Monsters, a dramatic reading, written by Bessier Ballad and myself. I see your pain. Pharynx shifted and turned in bed, constantly grumbling to himself in his sleep. No, I'm not evil. Stop it, he murmured audibly. He tossed around and kicked at the sheets, tangling them around his back legs and wing carapace. Go away, he growled. Go away. Pharynx groaned, then shot up in bed, lavender eyes wide. He looked around his bedchamber, breathing heavily. Okay, relax, Pharynx. It's just a dream. Bad dreams can't hurt anyone, he told himself. So stop being a childish coward and go back to sleep. Pharynx laid back down and pulled the blankets over him with his magic. He curled up into a tight ball, almost like a cat. His dragonfly-winged tail brushed against his muzzle as he screwed his eyes shut. You're not evil, you're not a lost cause, and you're especially not a little grub anymore. You can handle bad dreams. Pharynx continued to toss and turn the whole rest of the night, but he didn't wake up. Ugh, he grunted as he got up. Worst night of sleep ever. He felt his hooves drop onto the cold stone floor. They felt as though he had strapped weights to them. Pharynx trotted to the doorway, head hanging. Peered into the hallway. Other changelings were trotting about happily, some watering plants growing in the hall, others talking or hugging each other. Pharynx desperately wanted to make some sort of dry remark about getting cavities, but he was too tired to even move his lips at the moment. Good morning, Pharynx. Thorax pranced up to him happily. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? Pharynx flashed a drowsy glare at his younger brother. Thorax flinched a bit when he saw Pharynx's tired and annoyed expression. Oh, did you have a bad night? What? No, I just woke up like this, Pharynx deadpanned, trotting away and trying to lift his head high. Thorax watched as his brother rubbed his eyes a few times. Thorax followed him. They were heading to the throne room anyway. Seriously, though, did you sleep all right? Thorax asked as soon as he caught up with the changeling general. I slept like a baby. Oh, so that's a no, isn't it? What? No, I mean... Pharynx took a breath, trying to regain his composure. Well, you're the one who takes naps with the nymphs, you tell me. Thorax blinked, chuckling a bit. Okay, true, he admitted. Yep, Pharynx stifled a yawn. Whatever. Got anything for me to do today besides drilling methods into the soldiers' heads? Thorax thought for a moment. Well, I guess that depends if you're looking for more to do or just telling me what you'll be doing today. In that case, I got nothing, Pharynx responded flatly. Well, I have a bit of paperwork to do, but honestly, it's not that important. It isn't? Well, not really. Just a bit of stuff from the other links about petitions for new activities and like... Okay then, I guess all you need to do is your drill sergeant routine. Of course I do, he replied with a roll of his eyes. Something wrong with that? Not at all, Pharynx broke off, trying not to yawn. I gotta go take care of that then. I'm gonna be out there all day anyway. Okay, good luck with it. Thanks, I'm gonna need it, Pharynx sighed. Once he made his way out of the throne room, he trotted a little ways away, then leaned against the wall and let his eyes close slightly. Okay, more than slightly. He only woke up when he felt himself slipping and let out a soft gasp, catching himself, spreading his legs wide to do it. He looked around to make sure none of the changelings saw. A few changelings stood in the hall, but none were paying him any attention. Dang, that was close. Nice work, Pharynx, he thought, inwardly punching himself. He made his way out to the training field where his troops were gathered. All right, listen up, he called out in his loudest voice possible. Before Pharynx knew it, he spent the rest of the day yelling at his troops as they repeatedly disregarded everything he said. He was glad when the sun finally began to set. Thanks, Celestia, or in this case, thank Luna. Whatever. He trotted inside the hive again and passed the throne room. Thorax was sitting in his oak throne, lounging. When he saw his brother, he leapt off the throne and trotted over. Hey, Pharynx, he said. I know you probably had a rough day, so I thought I'd give you a little treat. He looped a foreleg over Pharynx's shoulders and nestled him. Thanks, Thorax, Pharynx said, blinking heavily. The extra love Thorax had just shared with him was making him sleepier. No problem, Thorax smiled and gave him another nestle. Anyway, heading to bed? Yeah. Pharynx yawned openly for the first time today. Thanks again for the snack. I guess I'm probably skipping dinner anyway. Oh? Thorax's face fell. You're not hungry? Just too tired to even eat anything. See you tomorrow, Thor. Pharynx trotted away from him towards his chambers. Okay, whatever you say, Pharynx. Thorax waved, then trotted towards a group of changelings heading for the dining area. Pharynx entered his room and slid into bed, draping the covers over him and settling down. He let out a relaxed sigh as he laid the back of his head against his pillow. All right, Pharynx, it's just another normal night. Nothing bad is going to happen. You're a grown changeling. You can handle bad dreams, he thought. And with that, he gently shut his eyes. He slept peacefully for a few hours, but soon began squirming, thrashing in bed and whining. Pharynx began muttering again. Stop it. I'm not your prince. Thorax is the king. He's the one that deserves it. No. That was when he heard the voices. You always have been and always will be evil. Why do you even stay here? You don't belong with the rest of us. I don't feel safe when he's around. I'd feel safer if he were gone. He teaches little changelings to growl and hiss. I'm only doing this for our safety. Pharynx sat up, gasping for breath as he felt his throat begin to sting. Again, he croaked out. Stop it, Pharynx. Don't you dare start. You want to prove you're better than what they think, don't you? He forcefully shut his eyes. He eventually dozed off again, but not for a while. And once he did, he was plagued by the other changelings' voices yet again. And it wasn't just the changelings' voices. Starlight and Trixie spilled his thoughts as well. I think Pharynx is a lost cause. I'm all for second chances, third even, but he just seems like a bad bug. And if Thorax keeps sticking up for him, the others may decide they don't want him as their leader. I think he has to kick Pharynx out. What did I ever do to you two? How could you possibly know my own brother better than me to even suggest he kick me out? He growled in his sleep. Pharynx squeezed his eyes tighter and tighter. He reached out and snatched up a pillow, clutching it against his chest and burying his face in it. He felt his throat close up and let out a whimper. No, don't do it, Pharynx. You're better than that, he mumbled. Pharynx heard these insults over and over until... Morning, Pharynx! Gah! As if he were electrocuted, Pharynx bolted upwards, ready to attack whoever was in the room. Whoa, easy bro, it's just me. Thorax trotted into his sightline. You okay? You look pretty bad. Pharynx sighed gargly. I'm fine, Thorax. I was just waking up and you startled me. What did you think was going to happen? Sorry about that. It's fine. Is there a reason you woke me up so early? Thorax rushed up against the floor. Sorry, it's just you didn't eat last night, so I thought I'd wake you so you could have a fresh cooked food this morning. That's Pharynx blinked a few times. And that's actually pretty nice of you. Yeah, we've met before. Thorax, nicest changeling ever, Thorax teased. You know what I mean. Pharynx lifted a pillow in his magic and tossed it at him. Thorax shook his head. Are you coming, or do you want to go back to sleep? You seem pretty tired. Pharynx thought a bit. No, I'm coming. He got up from his bed. Let's go. The two made their way out of the room. Thorax led the way to the dining area as Pharynx lagged behind. His hood was dragged on the floor and his ears drooped slightly. He fought back a yawn as he entered the area. Thorax trotted cheerily to the counter where the changeling chefs had placed the food and levitated over some of the choicest Pharynx could see. Pharynx growled and rubbed his eyes. Thor, can you just pick one for me? Why? I just don't want to have to choose right now, Pharynx replied. Oh, well, how about some French toast? It's good. Pharynx blinked and all. Where'd you get that from? The chefs made it. Princess Twilight's been sending us a lot of neat equestrian recipes. Huh. Pharynx took the plate of the selected food and set it down, taking a small bite. It's not that bad, surprisingly. Well, of course it isn't bad, Thorax replied, sitting beside him with a plate of eggs and cooked oats. The ponies made sure to give us precise instructions. Can't believe you've probably given up on the meals we used to have, he submitted. Very funny, Thorax rolled his eyes. You know perfectly well we could eat regular food, even in our old farms. Yes, I do, Pharynx hesitated. Still, even if we can survive solely on shared love, I won't deny pony food is pretty good. You've tried it before? What do you think I do while I wait for you to finish your diplomat meetings, sit and pace around in the guest room? Besides, I was an infiltrator. You can't exactly tell ponies you're not hungry when you need to go with them to a restaurant to obtain information. Touche, Pharynx sighed, then settled into his meal. Pharynx looked off to the side. He was pretty tired, but maybe the meal would wake him up. He sniffed the French toast in front of him. It smelled very sweet, like very sweet. He lifted up one slice of the toast and took a few bites. He swallowed. It was sweet, but sort of good. He doubted it would give him much energy right away, but it would work. It wasn't long until Pharynx actually finished the thing. Thorax glanced at him, smiling. So, how was it? Not bad, Pharynx hopped and stood up. I better get going, Thor. I've got to set up the training grounds for today. All right, then. Thorax stood up as well, taking both their empty plates. I'll be in the throne room with the nibs. If you need something, check into there and in the nursery. Of course you will, Pharynx sighed, heading out of the dining area. See ya. Okay, bye, Pharynx, Thorax waved. Pharynx headed outside and prepared himself for yet another long day. He waited for his troops to gather and started them on basic exercise drills. Actually, starting the whole process was like trying to herd cats, as far as he knew. They were probably more incompetent than the Royal Guard, and that was saying something. That night, Pharynx actually went to get dinner with Thorax, though mostly so Thorax wouldn't get too concerned about him. Pharynx met him in the dining area. Thorax hugged him before trotting off to get food. So, what are we having now? Pharynx grunted, rubbing his head. I was thinking one of these salads. Thorax then turned to look at another place. But then this looks good too. Just pick one, Pharynx snapped, selecting one of the indicated salads and letting the chefs know. Alright. You go eat, Pharynx. I'll join you in a minute. Yeah, a minute. Pharynx rolled his eyes teasingly. He went to the table where he and Thorax usually sat. The other changelings called it the royal table because of this, but Acellas usually joined them when she was home from school, so it wasn't really true. I'm serious, Thorax called back. Sure, Pharynx replied, sitting down and waiting with his muzzle buried under his forelegs. He tried not to fall asleep, but found himself drifting off. Thorax blinked at him. Pharynx, are you okay? Thorax sat back up in a heartbeat. Oh, fine. Sorry, bro. Thorax chuckled a bit. No problem. So I take it the training didn't go well? Pharynx sighed heavily, about as well as every other day. Aw, what? I really hope they'd be making some progress. It's not like they don't have a good general and example. You know, Princess Twilight mentioned her friend Rainbow Dash, some connections to the Wonderbolts, and apparently their captain's pretty good. Maybe you could compare tactics with her. Pharynx was about to say something else when more food arrived. Oh, thanks, Thorax said to the changeling who had brought it to them. The brothers gazed upon the new meal. Pharynx began eating his food slowly, both from tiredness of trying to uphold his end of their conversation. He took a bite and swallowed. So, anyway, thanks for the suggestion, Thorax, but I think I can handle my own troops. Let the captain of the Wonder Whatevers take care of her own. Besides, I know the difference between changeling troops and pony troops. Well, it's really a flight team with a military background. Apparently they help out when the Royal Guards don't do their jobs right. Rainbow Dash's words, not mine. Thorax explained. So, in that case, they help all the time? I guess so, Thorax giggled. Well, I guess that means they know what they're doing, but so do I. I know you do, it's just, well, they haven't improved, and maybe you just need to try some new methods. Like what, brother? Pharynx's eyes narrowed. Well, I'm just saying, maybe Shining Armor or some of the other military captains in Equestria have ideas. Princess Twilight said the captain I was telling you about, Spitfire, is a lot like Tempest. I think maybe you'd like comparing tactics with her, Thorax said. I mean, we all know how you are about Tempest, that's for sure. He winked. Shut up, Tempest has nothing to do with this. I'm just saying, it might be useful to talk with Spitfire or Shining. I guess. Wait, is he saying I'm not a good enough general? Pharynx thought as he took another bite of his food, lowering his head slightly. Thorax could tell the conversation was upsetting Pharynx. I'm sorry, you want to talk about something else? I guess, Pharynx mumbled. Okay, well, Craft Time is getting a lot of attention. I think the others really like the creative outlet. And I bet they really like the new paintbrushes donated to them. Great. Pharynx took another bite of food. And how well do they work? He asked after swallowing. The paintbrushes? Well, a lot better than the twigs and leaves we were using before. Of course. So, what about your theater troupe, or whatever they're calling themselves? They're really improving. They're thinking about trying physically shapeshifting into the characters for the duration of the play. Oh, even though you said... Well, like I said, only for the play. It makes sense. This way they can portray characters correctly, and it helps them get into character easier. Makes sense. Yeah, and then there's, don't say the Pharynx form. It's getting really popular, too. Pharynx groaned, his head flopping over and hitting the table. Pharynx? No response. Pharynx, what's wrong? You okay? Pharynx slowly raised his head to gaze at his brother. I'm fine. He slowly got up and walked away. Thorax looked after him in concern. Pharynx headed back to his room and got ready for what he assumed would be another restless night. Well, here I go again. This night, Pharynx tried just not sleeping, but going on 2 days with barely any sleep wore him out. He ended up falling asleep despite his best effort. He's scary and intimidating. He makes us all uncomfortable. Oh, not again. You're not a very good general. No one's learned anything. Not you too, Thorax. I bet even Tempest could do better than you. Stop, that's not true. Soon, Pharynx found himself in a dark void. He looked around for someone, his brother, Tempest, or anyone. He looked at his hooves. They were black and covered in holes. What the? You know deep down this is what you have always been, and always will be. Pharynx shook his head. Liar, you're lying. Am I? They all know it. It's time you accepted it too. Pharynx turned around to see two familiar unicorns walking along. One of them said, I want to say something, but it goes against everything I've been taught as Twilight's pupil. Ears drooped. Ooh, then by all means, say it, the second urged. The first one sighed before uttering, I think Pharynx is a lost cause. I am not! Pharynx tried to charge towards them, but his hooves didn't seem to budge. Then why did Twilight's pupil say so? Another voice asked. Shut up, they didn't know anything. Pharynx snapped, but he couldn't move. He looked down to see all four of his hooves smeared with changeling slime. Where are you going, my only heir? Pharynx's eyes widened. No. He found himself staring at the towering figure of the changeling's ex-queen herself, and the voices continued as she stepped closer and closer to him, an evil grin continuously spreading across her face. I'm all for second chances, third even, but he just seems like a bad bug. Stop it! I think Thorax might have to kick Pharynx out. He would never do that. We want him banished. Pharynx woke with a startled gasp, found his throat was raw and his eyes were burning. No, don't you dare start, Pharynx. You're an adult. It wasn't real, he croaked weakly as his lip quivered. They're all scared of me. No, don't start. You're not weak, Pharynx whispered to himself quietly. Pharynx laid back against his pillow, pulling the blankets up over him and burrowing under them, as though the sheets would hide him from the voices. He felt the warm moisture creeping up to the surface of his lavender eyes. Pharynx shook his head and rubbed his eyes. I just need more sleep, he said, trying to maintain a steady voice. The tears didn't seem to stop, though. Pharynx wiped them all away and took deep breaths, remembering how Thorax calmed himself down for big meetings. It was just stress, that's all. He sniffled weakly. Pharynx pressed his head against his pillow, hiding his face. Pharynx, don't you do it. Stop! Pharynx moaned and wrapped his hooves around the pillow. Come on, suck it up already, he bit his lower lip. You're better than this. Stop getting emotional. Pharynx punched his pillow slightly and laid back down on it, shaking around. Come on, just fight it out like you were taught. You're not a sensitive little nymph. He squeezed his eyes shut. Just get through the night. You can do that. It's probably nearly morning. A sob escaped his throat. Shut up. Stop doing that. He struggled to hold them back to no avail. Pharynx eventually stood up, went to the pitcher of water Thorax had insisted on leaving his room if he got thirsty. Pharynx splashed it on his face and shook his head. Now, to get some sleep, Pharynx sighed, wiping his face and going back to bed. Pharynx laid down, then saw the moon was about to set. No. He banged his forehead on the wall and groaned. How do dreams pass in the blink of an eye and last all night? He asked himself. He lay Sphinx-style on his bed and stared out the window, watching Luna lower the moon and stars. After a minute, Celestia's sun then rose in their places. Pharynx sat still, resting for a bit longer until he heard a knock on his door. Who is it? He groaned weakly. Morning, bro. Thorax poked his head into the room, then saw Pharynx. Wow. Pharynx, you look awful. What happened to you? Nothing. I just must have slept in a weird position. Did you come to get me for breakfast again? Pharynx, I know something happened to you. You haven't been acting right for days. Please, just tell me. Pharynx merely sighed and walked past him. You wouldn't understand. What are you talking about? Of course I would. Pharynx continued walking on, ignoring the many drones that tried speaking to him. He made his way out to the training fields, ignoring the dining area, up until he finally reached the troops of changelings. All right, troops, get in formation, Pharynx yelled. He obviously wasn't having any out-of-place behavior this time. Changelings got to work as soon as their general told them to. However, as usual, once the exercise warm-up was completed, Pharynx found himself needing to repeat the lesson from the day before. All right, boys, attention. Sir, yes, sir. We're going to have to repeat yesterday's exercise. There was a collective groan. Did I ask for your opinion, soldiers? Get in line and start. If you have time to groan, you have time to work. No complaining. They began as asked, going through the same routine as the day before. Pharynx once again found himself struggling to keep his eyes open. He began pacing back and forth to avoid having time to close his eyes. He watched the troops through tired eyes and blurred vision. Come on, Pharynx, Pharynx thought to himself. Just a few more hours. Pharynx smacked a hoof against his temple. He then heard hoofsteps. He turned to see a female changeling with concerned expression standing near him. General Pharynx, are you all right? It was Retina, one of the privates. Did I ask for your opinion, Private? Moreover, I don't think I gave you permission to stop, did I? Well, no, but nothing, Private. Get back in line and don't stop until you finish the exercise, which for you just doubled. Pharynx noticed his vision getting more and more blurry. But, General, you don't look... Do you think I care? Get back in line. Pharynx held back a yawn as he yelled at the private. Retina's eyes lowered. Sir, I'm sorry, but you just look a little what? I look a little what? Retina flinched a bit as she tried to keep her calm composure. A little... Sir? Pharynx remembered the voices from the many changelings, then his brow furrowed. Why do you even care about me now? I'm sorry, sir. What are you talking about? No, why? Pharynx stomped up on the ground, stepping forwards and making Retina back up. I'm serious. Why? I was just trying to... I don't care. I don't care what you're about to say. Why do you care so much? The private didn't say anything. The others had stopped working to watch the scene play out. Well, because you're a general, and not only that, you're also, what, a lost cause? The other changelings all looked at each other, some with dawning understanding, others with blatant confusion. General Pharynx, Retina began, but Pharynx shook his head at her. No, I'm not finished, he looked at the private. Whatever you're here for, forget it. All of you, back to work, and I mean now. But, sir, I'm sick of letting you guys constantly offend me and talk about me behind my back like I'm not even there. So, no, whatever you want, no. All of you back to work, now. Pharynx could barely see now. He was relying solely on the fear he was picking up from Retina. Retina reached out a hook. Sir, do you need a... So help me, Private. If you say hug, I'm going to make you see stars, Pharynx yelled harder than ever. Sir, please calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. I know that none of you wanted me here, and I know that you'd all be more comfortable with me gone. Sir, we'd never think that, sir. Oh, really? Not even before I became this? Sir, no, not a word, Private. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm through with you pretending like you don't. Step close to Retina. Sir, are you all right? Of course I am. What gave you any implications I wasn't? Pharynx yelled, his eyes threatening to close any minute. Sir, you don't look okay. Shut up and get back to work, Private. Yes, Pharynx stumbled as he tried to take another step forward and fell, his chin hitting the ground. The last things he heard before passing out were the shocked gasps of the drones, as well as Retina's words. Sir, Private Ventricle, go get help. Pharynx, who is that? Pharynx, wake up. Thorax? Pharynx! The general finally opened his eyes and gazed around the room. Thorax was sitting over him, crying. Upon seeing Pharynx awake, leapt forwards to hug him. Thorax? Pharynx rested in Thorax's hooves, eyes drooping. What's going on? He looked up at his brother's face. What do you think, Pharynx? You passed out. Thorax nuzzled his brother's forehead. You scared me, Pharynx. What in the name of Celestia happened that made you faint? Yes, he gently held his brother's shoulders. Pharynx hesitated and looked around. They were alone in his room. Pharynx nestled into Thorax's carapace, enjoying the warmth of Thorax's comfort and love. Thorax looked at his brother, eyes still watery. Pharynx, I know you can trust me. You can tell me anything. Pharynx opened his mouth to say something, and his eyes began to sting. Thorax, He gritted his teeth. The reason was... Thorax pulled him closer. Yes? Pharynx started breaking down into tears. Thorax began rubbing his back gently. Oh, Pharynx, I've been having, between sniffles, nightmares. Oh, Pharynx, why didn't you say something? Thorax nuzzled him. I'm a general, Thorax. I didn't want to be seen as a grub. Pharynx, rank or not, every ling has nightmares. I know you want every ling to see you as the tough general, but it's okay to admit that you're scared. Pharynx sobbed. But they all were about how I was... What, brother? How I was still evil. Oh, Pharynx, you were never evil. Thorax, I was Chrysalis's right hoof ling and her first errand ever. But what about after she was dethroned? Thorax asked. Everyone called me a lost cause, Thorax. They said you should kick me out. If that doesn't scream hate, then I don't know what does. Pharynx wiped his eyes. Heck, even Starlight and Trixie were considering making you kick me out of the hive. Thorax's eyes widened. Pharynx, that's what it was about? Oh. Pharynx leaned in to nestle him again. Pharynx. I just kept hearing them say it over and over every night. Pharynx sobbed, cuddling against Thorax, absorbing in his love. I'm sorry, Pharynx. Thorax held him close and willingly fed him the brotherly love and concern he had. Pharynx finally stopped crying after a while. You were in it too, he mumbled. What? Thorax asked. Why? That general, not worthy, Pharynx sniffled, laying his antlers against Thorax. Thorax gasped in shock. Pharynx, of course I don't think you're a bad general. I was just recommending a way for you to coordinate efforts with other leaders of armies so you could brainstorm and shift tactics, I said. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. You didn't. I don't know why I thought that. I didn't want to bother you, and I thought I could just get through it. Pharynx, it was my fault from the very start. Now Thorax is starting to tear up. I should have noticed right away and been more persistent. I should have known you wouldn't come to me on your own. He sniffled before continuing. That means I was the one who set up the whole being peaceful and no patrolling thing. I made you feel like an outcast, and I'm sorry. Pharynx sniffled and hugged Thorax, surprising him. I'm sorry. I don't want you to blame yourself. Just blame me for not swallowing my pride. Thorax sobbed quietly. Oh, Pharynx, I'm serious. I should just come to you. Pharynx broke off and yawned, eyes closing. I'm too tired to work. I know it's my fault. The two sat in silence for a moment. Then Thorax spoke. You should get some more rest. Seriously, after what we just talked about, you won't have any more nightmares, Pharynx. How do you know? Because Thorax put a hook on his shoulder. I'm here. He smiled. I'll watch over you. Promise I won't let you lose any more sleep. It took him a while, but Pharynx smiled back. Thank you, Thorax. But don't you have royal duties or something? Nothing that can't wait. Thorax gave Pharynx a playful poke in the ribs. Pharynx sighed and nodded. Fine. He laid back in his bed. Thorax leaned down and nestled him again. Comfortable? Yeah, thanks. Pharynx sighed as Thorax lifted his blankets to be tucked around him. You aren't going to ask to sing to me, are you? Because that's where I'm drawing the... Broke off with a yawn. The line. Thorax chuckled. No, you're not a nymph. He rubbed his head. And yet you're tucking me in and rubbing my head. Pharynx gave him a tired yet sly smirk. Thorax giggled. Sorry, I guess spending time with the nymphs rubbed off on me. Of course it did. Either way, I'm here for you, bro, Thorax said, nuzzling Pharynx affectionately. I know. Thank you. Pharynx closed his eyes and lay back against the pillow. Thorax smiled. It's no problem. I love you, Pharynx. I love you too, brother. Pharynx smiled back in his sleep. Thorax gave Pharynx another nestle and sat down by the bed, watching over Pharynx, just as he promised.